What's up, horror movie lovers? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Keelan, and today we're going to be diving into my review for Infinity Pool, a new sci-fi horror film written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg. Now, before I get into my review, I would like to ask everybody, if you haven't already, please make sure you follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at KillTheCredits. And if you haven't already, also be sure to subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell so you can get updates on all my latest videos. And last but not least, and this is the most important part, please be sure to leave a like on this video. The like is the most important metric when it comes to the YouTube algorithm, and it helps me out a bunch, and it costs you nothing, so be sure to spread some love and leave a like on this video. And with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into my review for Infinity Pool. The synopsis reads as follows. James and M. Foster are enjoying an all-exclusive beach vacation in the fictional island of Latolka when a fatal accident exposes the resort's perverse subculture of hedonistic tourism, reckless violence, and surreal horrors. So starting off, I want to make it clear that I only knew two things, and two things only, about this movie before watching it. Number one was that Mia Goth was starring in it, and number two, that it was written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg. And I would love to say that that's because I made it my mission to avoid any TV spots, any trailers, any photos being posted on social media, and kind of give myself that pat on the back, but that would be a lie, because in my opinion, and from my experience, there was virtually zero marketing for this movie. The only reason I even knew about Infinity Pool and when it was coming out was because I was checking AMC's website to see when Knock at the Cabin was coming out, and I saw Infinity Pool. If it wasn't for that, I feel like I probably would not have known this movie was coming out. It would have went completely under the radar for me. Then again, when I think about it, I guess the marketing didn't really matter all that much, because once I found out horror movie Mia Goth, I was sold anyways. And since we're on the topic, let me start there. Mia Goth is slowly becoming one of my favorite actresses to watch perform. She plays a character named Gabby in this movie, and the character and the way that it was written was perfect for Mia Goth. It really gives her the opportunity to just show her range, her acting range, and the abilities that she has. Did a fantastic job, and everything that I've seen her in, she's done a fantastic job, and I'm really excited to see what she brings in Maxine or pretty much any other future production that she's involved with. And moving on, we also have Alexander Skarsgård, who plays the main character James, and I have to be honest, I wasn't super well versed with his acting credentials or other films that he'd been in, so I had to, do my research for this video and figure that out, and that's when I realized this motherfucker was Tarzan. No, not that Tarzan. That's a cartoon. Okay. There we go. That's the one. But on a serious note, I really did love his performance in this movie. His character, James, is a struggling writer who goes to a resort to try and find some inspiration for a new book he's been writing. And, he seems like a pretty decent guy at the start of the film, but as the story begins to progress, you start to see the kind of person he really is and just how far he'll go and the things that he would do when presented with the opportunity to do harm or do bad things without fear of consequences of them. It's also worth mentioning that there are a bunch of other notable characters that I'm not going to go into detail on, but everybody who had a part in this movie did a fantastic job. So I just want to give a big shout out to all those people. Now, typically I do like to break down themes and messages of the movies that I review, but I'm not going to do it for this particular one just because in order to do that, I feel like I would have to kind of expose too much about the movie because it's not easily explained, and I don't want to ruin anybody's viewing experience. I do think you guys should go check this movie out, get your own opinion, have your own personal experience with it. So for that reason, I'm not going to do that in this review, but you can take my word for it. There are very interesting themes and messages spread throughout this film that are introduced in a very interesting way. So they're there. As far as cinematography goes, this movie was beautifully done, from shot selection to color grading. Everything had its own style. It was very stylized. I don't really know how else to explain it, but like warm. There's just a lot of warmth to it. I'm not a professional. I just review movies. So cut me some slack, guys. That's all I got for that explanation. But overall, the look of the movie is interesting, and it's almost like its own character in itself, which also helps drive the story and keep you interested in the story, even when there's like some slower parts, which there aren't many of, but when you feel like there's something dragging, the style is enough to kind of keep you interested in what you're viewing. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about before I get into the not so good things about this film, in my opinion, is just how ambitious this movie really is. The way that Brandon wrote and directed this movie is very unapologetic. It is itself 100%. He clearly had a vision vision, for the way that he wanted it done. He did it. He made it that way. It does not apologize for anything, and it does what it wants to do. Now, to get to the negatives that I have, and it's really just one mainly. There's not really a whole lot I can say that is bad about this film. This was just the big issue that I had. Now, as a disclaimer, I will put it out there here and now. I could just not be smart enough for this movie. Like, it just could be too sophisticated for me, and it went over my head, and so I missed some things. But I don't think that's the case, as I don't really think I'm an unintelligent person. The movie just felt very confusing. Like I said earlier, there are themes and messages, and I could pick up on pieces of them, but ultimately I didn't understand the purpose. Not everything felt cohesive in the end, and it's not that I need anything like food sped to me, but you gotta give me something. You gotta make me feel like I'm understanding, so that way when the movie's over, I can sit and feel like, okay, like my time was spent well, the experience was good, at least for me. Like, I enjoy having that sense of understanding and purpose by the end of watching something. Then I like to have discussions, formulate my own thoughts, my own opinions, and piece stuff together. So I don't need everything given to me, but I just don't think there was enough. I think the story could have been told a little bit better, with a little bit more details given to you, instead of it being left up so much to interpretation. So by the end of it, I decided to go ahead and just do some research, read some like ending explained articles, because I just felt like I was missing out, and I couldn't really wrap my head around what it was, or what the purpose was of me even watching it, what they were trying to tell me. So after reading some articles, I did start to understand it more, but for somebody who's not doing that, just as a regular audience member who's not going to go do it what I do, they're not going to get it. So they're going to walk out with the feeling of the movie sucked, probably, which I don't think this movie sucked per se, but from a regular viewer standpoint, I definitely could see why somebody would not enjoy this movie. Like, the worst thing that could happen for me is when I leave a theater, I don't want to feel confused. I don't want to feel like there's so many questions unanswered, or that I just maybe didn't understand it. When you're making a movie, ideas should be ambitious, right? You should be able to construct whatever vision you have, but you've got to convey it in a way that the audience receives it and they understand it. And I don't fully get it, and I'm not the only one. My girlfriend also didn't quite understand. There was people I could hear leaving the theater vocalizing their confusion. That is definitely an issue, and it will probably have a negative effect on the way that the movie was kind of taken, or the reviews the movie is going to get. The reception, that's the word I'm trying to think of. The reception that this movie will have is definitely going to be negatively affected because of that. And while I'm thinking about it, I don't think I've actually emphasized just how weird this movie is. There's a lot of nudity and weird stuff happening. They give you an epilepsy warning in the very beginning of the movie, because there is a lot of flashing, brainwashing scenes. There's also an NC-17 version of this movie floating around somewhere, and if that doesn't give you a further indication of what you're going to experience if you watch this movie, I don't know what else will, because even for R-rated, it was pretty rough. So I can't really imagine what the NC-17 version would look like, or what they would even add in there, because there's already a lot in there for the R-rated version. So, and like I said, again, while I did enjoy a ton of the stuff that I did see, the way that the movie was constructed, you could tell that Brandon Cronenberg really knows what he's doing when he's writing, or maybe not so much the writing, but definitely behind the camera. The writing could maybe be a little bit better, but if he wants to stay ambiguous and leave it up to interpretation like that, that's for him to do with his movie. He writes them the way he wants to. This is just my personal opinion. So to formulate my final conclusion, I would like to say that I do think objectively this is a good movie. It's a well-made film, but subjectively it's almost too abstract for its own good. Lots of questions left unanswered. I just wish they would have given us a little bit more context to the story and what was happening, so that I could have felt I understood what I just spent an hour and 40 minutes watching. That's pretty much the biggest gripe and only gripe I really have with this. If they could have just conveyed the story a little better and left us with a better impression in the end, I definitely would have rated this movie higher. Before that big negative and all the stuff I just rambled on about, I am going to have to give this movie a 6 out of 10. And like I said before, I do think that you guys should go to the theater, watch this movie, formulate your own opinion, come up with your own theories. Maybe you guys would understand more than I did. I don't know. So I don't want to deter anybody from not going to the theater and seeing this. Definitely should go support the people who created this movie. And that is going to conclude my review for Infinity Pool. If you guys did enjoy my review, please be sure to leave a like on this video. As I said before, the like is the most important metric when it comes to the YouTube algorithm, and it helps me a ton. And if you're feeling extra lovey and the effects of some random aphrodisiac from a non-existent island, be sure to subscribe, ring that notification bell so you guys can get updates on my latest videos. And let's throw in a random one in there. Go ahead and comment down below what your most anticipated horror movies or movies of 2023 are. And if you have any theories about Infinity Pool, if you've already seen the movie, go ahead and drop those down below too. But let's add some spoiler tags. But we can get some conversation going. That's my favorite part about doing this. And I respond to every comment that is left on every video. video. And with all that being said, I bid you all a farewell and a goodbye, and I'll see you in my next video.